In a world that moved in a blur of neon lights and hollow promises, there lived a girl named Maya, whose heart was a fortress. Her past was a graveyard of broken words and memories that cut like knives. To the outside world, she was a silent shadow, her head down and her ears covered. But inside, her mind was a constant storm of what-ifs and not-agains, replaying every time trust had been a bridge that collapsed under her feet. Her memories weren't just ghosts. They were heavy anchors she dragged through every new day, making her believe that kindness was always a mask for a hidden motive. This mental pain was a persistent ache in her chest, a cold weight that made her keep everyone at a safe distance where they could never see the cracks in her soul. Maya's life was a series of closed doors until she met an old watchmaker named Elias, who worked in a tiny shop filled with the rhythmic ticking of 1,000 different hearts. Elias didn't try to climb her walls or break down her doors. Instead, he sat in the silence with her, allowing the ticking clocks to fill the spaces where words usually failed. He noticed the way Maya looked at the world with the eyes of a bird that had been caged too long. He began to leave small wooden carvings of flowers and birds on the bench outside his shop for her to find. At first, Maya was convinced it was a trick, a debt she could never repay. But Elias never asked for anything in return, and his eyes never held the sharp hunger of the people from her past. As the weeks turned into months, the steady rhythm of the watchmaker's presence began to act like a slow warmth, melting the ice around Maya's heart. For the first time, she felt the heavy anchors of her memories start to lighten. The unique beauty of their connection was that Elias didn't try to fix her. Instead, he showed her that even a broken clock still has a purpose, and that time has a way of turning pain into wisdom. One rainy afternoon, when the city felt particularly cold, Maya walked into the shop. For the first time, she didn't look at the exit. She sat down beside Elias and told him about the memories that haunted her sleep. He listened without judgment, his hands continuing their delicate work. When she was finished, he simply handed her a small silver watch that didn't tell the time but played a melody of pure, clear notes that sounded like hope. Her emotional breakthrough came when Maya realized that while she couldn't change the past, she could choose who she allowed into her present. She learned that not every hand reaches out to hurt. The transition from a girl of shadows to a girl of light happened slowly, like a flower blooming in the cracks of a sidewalk. Soon, Maya began to look up at the sky instead of the ground. Her happy ending arrived on a bright morning when she found herself in a park, surrounded by people, not feeling like a victim of her memories, but like a survivor of her own storm. She realized that trust was not a weakness, but a different kind of strength. By letting Elias in, she had finally unlocked the door to her own life. The silver watch in Maya's hand continued to hum its sweet melody of hope. As the days turned into weeks, she began to realize that the fortress she had built to keep others out had actually become the very cell that was keeping her spirit in. With every steady tick of Elias's clocks, the sharp edges of her past memories began to soften, like stones being worn smooth by a gentle river. She started to step outside the safety of the shop more and more. She noticed small things she had ignored for years. The way the morning light caught the dew on the grass, the sound of children's laughter echoing through the park. And for the first time, she didn't look for the hidden danger in those moments. Elias watched her progress with a quiet smile, never pushing her but always there, like a lighthouse in a storm. One day, he handed her a small, rusted key. He told her it belonged to a box she had never seen before, a box that held the things he cherished most. He said he trusted her to keep it safe while he traveled to gather supplies. The weight of that trust felt heavy, but instead of the usual panic, she felt a surge of quiet pride. For the first time, someone believed in her strength more than they feared her brokenness. While Elias was away, Maya sat in the middle of the shop, surrounded by the ticking pulse of 1,000 clocks, and she finally gathered the courage to open the box. Inside, she didn't find gold or jewels, but letters from old friends, sketches of mountains, and a small dried flower from a garden long forgotten. She realized then that life wasn't about avoiding pain, but about collecting the moments of beauty that make the pain worth enduring. The people who had hurt her were just small chapters in a book that was still being written. When Elias returned, he found Maya not hiding in the shadows, but standing at the front of the shop with the door wide open, letting the fresh evening air swirl around the room. She handed him back the key. For the first time in years, she didn't just smile with her lips, but with her eyes, which were now clear and bright, like a sky after a heavy rain. The emotional pain that had defined her for so long hadn't vanished, but it had been transformed into a quiet wisdom that made her more beautiful than she had ever been before. This happy ending was not just a destination, but a new way of walking through the world. Maya began to reach out to others who looked the way she used to look, lost and guarded. She became the one to leave small carvings on benches, the one to listen in the silence. She found that by healing others, she was finishing the work of healing herself. As the sun set over the city, Maya sat on the steps of the shop, feeling the deep, solid peace of a girl who was no longer a prisoner of her memories, but the architect of her own future. The story of the girl with trust issues had become the story of the woman with a heart of gold. As she closed her eyes to the rhythm of the clocks, she knew that she was finally and completely home. As the first stars appeared like tiny silver pinpricks in the sky, Maya felt a sense of belonging she had never experienced. The shop was no longer just a place of clocks and gears, but a sanctuary where the past and future had finally made peace with each other. She began to spend her evenings writing in a leather-bound journal, filling the pages with things she was grateful for instead of events she was afraid of. With every word, the last of the heavy anchors seemed to float away into the night air. One evening, a young man walked into the shop with a broken pocket watch and eyes that looked exactly like Maya's used to. Looked darting toward the exit, clouded with unspoken caution. Instead of stepping back, Maya stepped forward. Her voice was as steady as the grandfather clock in the corner as she told him that everything can be mended if you have enough patience and the right light to see by. She saw the tension leave his shoulders as he realized he was in a place where he didn't have to explain his silence. In that moment, Maya realized she had become the lighthouse that Elias had once been for her. Her transformation was complete. The girl who once got trust issues like a fever was now a woman who spread hope like a warm summer breeze. She and Elias began to host small gatherings in the shop for those who felt lost. And the sound of ticking clocks was soon joined by the sound of shared stories and gentle laughter. The emotional pain of her memories had been the soil, and out of that dark earth, a garden of connection had grown. As the night deepened, Maya stood at the window, looking out at the world she had once feared so much. The walls were gone, the gates were open, and she was finally free to wander wherever her heart desired. Her happy ending wasn't just a moment in time, but a continuous flow of light and love. She turned back to the room where the clocks were singing their steady song and felt a deep, absolute certainty that no matter what the future held, she was strong enough to meet it with an open heart. The journey of the girl who remembered too much had ended, and the story of the woman who loved anyway had begun. The final piece of Maya's story settled over the city like a soft falling curtain of starlight. She sat in her favorite chair, watching the moonlight dance across the silver watch, and realized that the trust she had found was not a fragile thing. It was a solid inner foundation that belonged only to her. The mental pain that had once been a sharp, constant screaming in her mind had softened into a gentle hum of gratitude. She understood that every scar from her past was simply a map leading her to the strength she possessed now. In the quiet sanctuary of the clock shop, the ticking sounds became a rhythmic lullaby that sang of a world where it is safe to be seen and safe to be known. Maya looked over at Elias, who was nodding off at his workbench, and she felt a wave of love so pure it washed away the last traces of the old shadows. She reached out and turned off the final amber lamp, letting the warm darkness of the room wrap around her like a protective cocoon. The happy ending was not just an ending, but a beautiful open door. The girl who used to hide in the dark was now the one who held the light for everyone else. As she closed her eyes, her breathing slowed to match the steady heartbeat of the sleeping city outside. There were no more walls to guard and no more bridges to watch, because Maya was finally at peace with herself and the world around her. She drifted into the deepest sleep of her life, knowing that when she woke up, the sun would bring a new day, a new life, and an open heart that was no longer afraid to trust the journey. Thank you so much for watching. If this story touched you, please share it with someone who might need to hear it. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories like this. See you next time. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of your night. May you find deep peace and restful sleep. Wishing you the sweetest dreams. If you liked it, please like, comment, and subscribe. Bye.